I still don't have an intro, but you can call me Xander or R, and I am here to do the mid-year check-in tag. You can find the past iterations of this tag on my channel, and I'm sure my voice is much higher pitched in those videos under the mid-year freakout tag, and I know that's still what a lot of people are calling it, but it is a little bit ableist, and I think check-in is honestly just a better title anyway. So yeah, also I think the original the original tag, who's to say where it is? And the answers that I'm going to be using I got from Audrey over at Perpetual Pages video, who also got them from other places. So it's just, you know, everywhere. But without further ado, let us get into the questions. The first question is, how has your reading year gone so far? And, you know, it's going. It's going. I mean, I didn't set any goals for this year. So it's not like I have that metric to use. And I only set, like, my reading goal to, like, 12. Because I'm, like, pretty sure I'll hit that, because, like, this year in particular, I mean, like, the past couple of years, I've just been like, I, don't wanna, like, challenge myself to, like, read a lot more books. If it's just not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. So, like, I don't have those metrics to use. I actually think I have read 12 books this year now. So, you know, I guess I'm actually doing great if we use those metrics. But of course, I have an inner critic inside my head that even though I try and tell myself, don't be super critical about what you read, it's whatever, I still end up being like, but I haven't read enough. And what is enough? I don't know, and the inner critic doesn't know either, actually. I don't think there's ever going to be an enough, so that's just something I'm gonna have to work on in therapy at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's going well in the sense that I don't think I've read any books that I have, like, they've mostly been really good, so that's always a good thing. And I have discovered, like, some new, faves, so that's also good. So I guess actually my reading year is going pretty good, but I do have an inner critic inside my head that likes to tell me nothing I do is enough. So, there's that. But, like I said, a conversation to be had in therapy, not on this booktube channel. Moving on, the second question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2025? Now, this question, I don't like, because like I mentioned, I've read a lot of good books this year, so picking just one was not great. I, like, struggled with this a lot, and actually, I only picked this one specifically to talk about now, because I'm not going to talk about it in any of the other questions. So I was like, okay, that one I'm gonna talk about here. But really, it's like 4 books are all kind of tied for first for various reasons. But I'm talking about 3 of them later. The one that I'm not going to be talking about later, and that I'm going to be talking about now, is The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. I loved Hell Followed With Us. It took me a hot second to get to this one, but I actually enjoyed this one more. It's probably the lover of historical fiction in me that liked this one more. But yeah, no, I genuinely love this one so much. I cannot wait to read not only Compound Fracture, but also the new adult book that he's coming out with, which unfortunately I did forget the name of. but it is coming out later this year. Very excited for it. And yeah, this one, fantastic. I love how it does, like, the representation of, like, both, like, the main character is both, like, a trans guy and autistic, and I, like, love just the representation of those two identities, and how it's not just the main character, and how it's other characters in the book, and it's just, it's great. And if you are into historical horror, I would highly recommend it. This is not really a spoiler, but I have to say, what also made this, like, it's a very small detail, but what also really made this book for me is the fact that one of the trans characters named herself, after Greek mythology, and I'm just like, you get it, you get it. So yes, we stan, we're in the same club, it's fine. Although it's not technically mythology, I guess. I digress. It was mythology adjacent. My name is a mythology adjacent, in case that wasn't clear. The next question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far this year? And I actually have not read that many sequels. But even if I had, I feel like this was gonna be the answer regardless. And that is The Golden Raven. This is the sequel to The Sunshine Court. And it is actually technically like the 6th book. No, 5th. I can do math. The 5th book, in the All for the Game, like, universe, I guess, is, like, what we're gonna call it, because, like, the first 3 books take, like, it's, like, a different point of view, and so, like, it's an indirect, but, like, it continues on after that, so it's a mess, like everything All for the Game is, so, but yes, The Golden Raven takes place after the Sunshine Court, and so it's, like, completely new events that, like, the previous series has not touched on at all. In the first one, we do get a bit of events from a different character's perspective. This one, all brand new events. And boy, are those events wild. And did I love every minute of it? Yes. There's also, I won't get too in the weeds with it, but, like, there's some, like, parallels to, the second book in, like, the first trilogy, which is also wild, and, yeah, no, it's just, it was great. I think I read it in, like, 3 days, and it's, like, the biggest book in the series so far, actually. The Kingsman was the biggest before this, but this one is 479 pages. So, yeah. And my dust jacket came in for it, so now not only did I get to cover up probably the worst cover in the series, it also matches my other ones. But yes, absolutely adored this book. Don't mind the AC in the background, it's loud, I'm sorry. The next question is, what is a book that made you laugh? And that actually is going to go to a fairly recent read, which is Fence Volume 6. So honestly, I was, like, smiling for basically the entire time I was reading this. There's so much that happens that I'm just like, that's so good, I love that so much. But particularly at, like, the end, I do think I might have laughed, like, out loud. Like, it was great, and if it wasn't out loud, like, it was almost out loud, and it might as well have been, because I was smiling so hard. So, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't wait for the next one. whenever it comes out. I don't know if there's a set release date, probably not. I kind of just wait and then see on CS Picat's like social media feed that there's a new one, and I'm like, oh great, I'm going to go get that now. But I think they're currently working on the next in the Dark Rise series, which I'm also excited for, so I'm not even mad. But anyway, absolutely adore it. Can't wait for the next one whenever it comes, and smiling basically the whole time. The next question is a book that made you cry. I don't tend to cry a lot at books, so this one was tough to try and figure out. I do think my eyes maybe watered a little bit while I was reading a certain part of this book, though, and it's the closest I came to crying at a book, I think. And so that book is The Boy I Love by William Hussey. This is a queer World War I book. Are you surprised? No. I believe it's still only out in the UK. I don't think there's a US edition yet. Hopefully there will be at some point, because I will buy it if it exists, because I absolutely loved this book. But who knows? But yeah, no, I absolutely adored this book. It is, you can tell the author did so much research, and like, he mentions that he did a lot of research in the author's note, but it's so, like, packed with, like, great historical references, and then there's a glossary in the back, because he really doesn't, like, hold your hand with anything. Like, he just expects you to know things, which is, I mean, I thought it was great. And I don't think it takes away, like, I don't think you're gonna be too confused if you don't know anything, right? But yeah, it's great. Like, there's, like, some class dynamics at play, which is really interesting, because our main character, Steven, sorry, I knew I was gonna be rambly about this. Our main character, Steven, joined, I think, in either 1914 or 1915, and this takes place in 1916, right before Battle of the Somme. It actually is, like, leading up to the Battle of the Somme. That's, like, the pitch on the back. Anyway, Steven is 19, but he's already a second lieutenant because he's, like, from a wealthy family, and that's just what they did. Danny, however, was drafted, and he's 18, but he's made a private, so, like, I don't know. There's not a real big age difference, but, like, Steven's already been to the front before. He's, like, returning after being on medical leave, basically, and, like, Danny is this very, like, optimistic, kind of youth, and, like, Steven already feels, like, significantly older than Danny, even though they're, like, a year apart, and then, like I said, like, they're technically, like, different ranks. And so, it's fascinating, to me, at least. And obviously, like, the queer romance between them is fantastic. And, like, the ways they, like, get around being queer in the military. Like, it's so good! Yeah. And the ending, I really liked the ending. I'm not gonna say more, because I already mentioned Battle of the Somme. Like, I'm not gonna mention more, quite frankly, but I was not expecting actually what happened, and I was so pleased, and it made so much sense, and it was so good. It was so good, guys. I don't know what else to say. The next question is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to. This was actually on my Queer Lit Readathon TBR. I just didn't get to it, unfortunately, but I do plan to read it, hopefully soon, and that is The Lilac People. So this is about a trans guy right before World War II, and then, like, right after World War II, and, like, just, it's very interesting. I'm very curious to see, like, what all happens. I've tried to, like, avoid, like, more, like, reviews so it doesn't, like, color, like, my opinions on the book. And then I will watch those, like, after I read it. But I'm very, like, excited to read it. I think this is one of those cases where I am so excited to read it that I keep putting it off. But I'm hoping to read it soon, so that I can come back and tell y'all what I think, because it is pitched as, I think, In Memoriam and All the Light We Cannot See. Yeah. And In Memoriam is, yeah, my brand. I just went on about a queer World War I book, so very excited to read this, and hopefully I'll get to it soon. Next is, what is your most anticipated book for the second half of the year? I've already mentioned Andrew Joseph White's adult book. I think that comes out later this year. I'm not 100% certain, and I also don't remember the titles. That is not what I put down. So what I did write is actually kind of tied into also favorite new author and biggest surprise. So I'm gonna kind of like lump them all in right now and just talk about how I'm very excited for, I think it's Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews, because my biggest surprise was Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, and they are my new favorite author, and so that's that question. C.G. Drews is the favorite author question, and then now I will just talk about how much I love how much I loved Don't Let the Forest In. I put it for biggest surprise because it was like the most, like, I guess, like, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. Like, I thought I was probably gonna like it, because it's like dark academia and like psychological horror, and I read this before The Spirit Bears Its Teeth, but I feel like, was this the start of the horror trend of books that I was reading this year? I think it might have been. So yeah, I think it was a combination of, like, this was like, obviously I have, like, before, when I was reading Don't Let the Forest In, I had read, like, previous YA horror that I enjoyed, like Hell Followed With Us, and, like, I do like dark academia, so, like, I wasn't, like, I don't know, I knew I was going to like it, but I did not know I was going to like it that much, like, as much as I did, and I fucking loved that book. It was so good, and this is part of the reason why I think I liked it so much, is I didn't realize that the main character was Ace. Like, I just did not, that was not something I realized. I picked it up because, I think a friend told me about it in reference to, like, a reel that the author actually made. My friend didn't know the author made it, but the author made a reel of, like, books where the main, like, one of the main characters, Andrew, is not fine, and they included, like, you know, the Foxhole Court, All for the Game. I think they just showed the Foxhole Court, because that's, yeah. And then, although he is not fine more so in the second one, I would argue. But anyway, that tangent. And Summer Sons, and then Don't Let the Forest In, were, like, the three books in the reel. And it was honestly excellent marketing, that obviously it got me, or it got my friend to tell me that they saw that, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm sold, I love those two books. And so yes, our main character, Andrew is not fine, and he's also Ace, and I did not realize that, and so that was just, like, an added bonus, and, like, the way it's handled was so good. Like, I felt like if teenage me had read this book, I don't know, it would probably have been my favorite book. Like, hands down, honestly, it would have been my favorite book just because, like, the Ace rep was so relatable. Like, it's so good. I'm like, if you like YA horror, read it. I don't have a physical copy yet, cause I think I wanted to get like the fancy Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and then it was sold out, and I was gonna try and maybe get it like secondhand, and then I didn't, and then I just haven't. But yeah, it was so good, and so I'm very excited for their next book, which comes out, I think, in October. So it's called Hazelthorn, and I don't even really remember what all it's about. I'm just like, I fucking love Don't Let the Forest In, and you got me. I'm gonna read it. So yes. Those are those 3 questions. Let me circle back and see what question I missed, because I'm pretty sure there was a question between those. So between those questions was, what has been your biggest disappointment this year? And I've already kind of done a rant about it, and I think my wrap up. But we're gonna take this moment to talk about how much I did not like The Ghost Road by Pat Barker. Actually, hold on a second, because to really understand how disappointed I was, we need to go back to The Boy I Love to read what is after the dedication, which also is fantastic. And when you get to the author's note, anyway, not relevant to why I didn't like The Ghost Road. What is relevant is what's after that, which is a quote from a letter from Wilfred Owen to Siegfried Sassoon on the 5th of November, 1917. Goes as follows. I love you dispassionately, so much, so very much, dear fellow. You have fixed my life, however short. You did not light me. I was always a mad comet, but you have fixed me. I spun round you a satellite for a month, but I shall swing out soon, a dark star in the orbit where you will blaze. And so, is there anything heterosexual about that quote? No. And in the first book, and no, just the first book. He's not really in the second book. In the first book, it is very much, there's subtext about, like, the queerness going on there. And so, in the third book, I was like, okay, I'm expecting some, like, Achilles and Patroclus shit, really, because also Pat Barker did an Iliad retelling, and she made Achilles and Patroclus gay, because why wouldn't she? So, yeah, like, I was expecting something to happen, like, remotely queer between the two of them, because our main character is finally going back to the trenches. No, that's not what you get in this book at all, actually. I think, and I was also, like, that was before I even started the book. And I started the book, and, like, I think pretty early on, like, Wilfred Owens, like, gets introduced again, like, going back to the front with our character, Billy Pryor, who is fictional. Wilfred Owen was actually a real person. But, yeah, so, you know, my expectations are high. We do not, first of all, we don't even really get, like, a full book, like, from, like, even Billy's perspective. Like, half of this book is dedicated to the fucking psychiatrist's trip to one of the islands that Britain colonized, and, like, it's like half the book. Half the fucking book is just his observations, like, we're supposed to, I guess, realize that the psychiatrist is, like, kind of low-key breaking down, too. And he's, like, having these memories of the time he studied on this island. But that's, like, that's so much of the book is spent on this, and, like, this was published in the 90s, and I guess it was kind of anti-colonial for the 90s, and it never, like, outright praised colonialism, but I didn't feel like it was doing a lot to be, like, very anti-colonialism. And why are we spending half of a fucking World War I book on this island? Why? Make it make sense. It didn't make sense. I was so mad. And then, to make matters even worse, when we get to the front, we barely get anything from the front. We get some journal entries from Billy, and then, like, I think there's, like, one mention of, like, I think Owen finds a magazine and, like, tears out, like, Sassoon's, like, picture or something and, like, tapes it somewhere. And, like, that's the only mention of, like, either of, like them. Like, that's it. That's actually the only mention of Sassoon. And the Regeneration trilogy is pitched as, like, the Pat Barker Siegfried Sassoon trilogy. And that's the only mention we get of him at all. Like, the more I think about it, the angrier I get at this book. The only thing it had such high potential, and it let me down. And this is the one that fucking won the Booker Prize. This is the one that actually won the prize, and I'm like, this is the worst one in the trilogy. Why did you give it to this one? You should have given it to the first one, because apparently that one was nominated. The second one wasn't even nominated, and that was my favorite one, but I guess that one had the most explicitly gay shit in it, so we can't give an award to that because it was published in 1995, but it let me down a lot. And so it was definitely my biggest disappointment. And then, since I already answered favorite author and biggest surprise, the next question is, what is one book that you would like to read before the end of the year? And that is also a book from the Queer Lit Readathon TBR, Fire from Heaven by Mary Renault, that I've had since 2015. I really do want to read it by the end of this year, because I do not want to have a book that I've had for over 10 years. It's that insane. Insane! I would really like to read it at the 10-year mark. Like, actually, I think I got it in the summer, so, like, now is the 10-year mark. But yeah, I'd really like to say I read it before over 10 years goes by and I've owned it and haven't read it. So hopefully I can get this read by the end of the year. And the final question that I'm going to list, Audrey listed a few more from a different video in their video, but I didn't have any good answers for those. So I'm just gonna end it here, which is, do you have any upcoming video ideas that you're excited about? And yes, I do actually have an idea that I am a little bit excited about. So I made the previous, like, I think my last video was the, like, song lyrics video. And I am going to do another one of those, based on, originally it was gonna be, like, my top 5 songs from, like, last month, but I don't know if that's going to be exactly it. because I couldn't figure out books for all 5 of those songs. So it might be like a combination of those and then like other songs that I found book things that I liked. We'll see. I'm just playing more with that idea because I thought it was neat, and you know, I was like, why not? I'll also probably do some sort of wrap up at some point because I think the last one I did ended in February. And obviously I've read stuff since then, most of which I feel like I mentioned in this tag, but there are some things I didn't mention in this tag, and then I'm sure by the time I film it, I'll have finished more, at least one book. But anyway, those are all of the questions. Let me know if you've read any of these books, share any of these opinions. If you have a different opinion also, I'd love to hear it. Do you think The Ghost Road should have won the Booker Prize? Have you read that book? You probably haven't. But yeah, any and all comments are welcome. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.